Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Adaptations Across Countries. I'm your host, Carrie Anderson.
It's Morphin time! Dragon Sword!
Mastodon! Pterodactyl!
Triceratops!
Saber-tooth tiger!
Tyrannosaurus!
Man, you guys really like Power Rangers. On Super CES, the most popular videos are always Power Rangers, and last March, the Power Rangers episode has close to 20,000 views. So, first of all, I'd like to say thank you. These are very fun for me, and I hope you'll enjoy today's subject. Power Rangers Season 2 and Gosei Sentai Dairanger! Season 2. There's so much changed and yet stayed the same. And for Sentai, it was a time of celebration. Gosei Sentai Dairanger was originally an anniversary series. Today it's the 17th series, but it was the 15th series before the first two series, Dairanger and Jaka, would be considered part of the Sentai series canon. It is also very highly regarded as one of the best. During its development in 1992, the popularity of martial arts was high after several Jackie Chan movies and a small resurgence for Bruce Lee after his passing. In addition, Japan had a bunch of martial arts anime like Fist of the North Star 2, Ranma 1/2, Dragon Ball Z, and Street Fighter, so the time was ripe for Toei to make their own martial arts themed Sentai. One of the names tossed around was Dairanger, which would have been translated to something like Big Fist Ranger, but instead they decided on Dairanger, which I guess just means Great Ranger? One common misconception is that it was originally going to be called Chinaman, which I swear I'm not trying to use a racial slur. It's true, but according to an interview with a producer, it was considered a net rumor. Which is weird. Why would they put a net rumor into Akiba Ranger? But I guess it was just kind of like a funny idea. I think that was kind of like the in-joke or something. I'm not sure. But despite the questionably racist title, the Chinese theme was a big part of Dairanger, as all the giant robots are themed after Chinese mythological creatures. Dairanger is based on the Chinese dragon Long, which could also transform into a Sun Wukong looking fighter, for some reason. Shishi Ranger is based on the Chinese lion, Tenma Ranger is based off of the Tianma, Kirin Ranger is based off the Qilin, and Ho'o Ranger is based off the Huanghuang, a sort of Chinese phoenix, but not really. However, these themes would be completely ignored in Power Rangers, simply calling it Thunder Zords with thunder power. This bothered me before in Season 1 when they ignored the mythology, but I feel like Season 2 is the most frustrating for me, since it ignores the entire Chinese culture and has some issues behind the scenes. One of the problems is the use of the Zhu 2 footage. The very footage that Saban had commissioned from Toei was very heavily edited. In the Zhu 2 footage, it was originally the Megazord to fight various monsters, but for some strange reason, they decided to edit around their own footage to fit in the Thunder Megazord. They just made more work for themselves in order to do this. Why? Nothing about what they did was a good use of their money and time. There were some pretty good Zord fights too, but now these first sets of monsters are reduced down to simple attacks and never sharing any choreography while fighting the Megazord, because it was replaced with the Thunder Megazord. For shame! Sorry, that's been bothering me for a while. Change of subject, how's the story? Well, Dairanger is about a group of martial artists that have the power of ki fortification, which allows them to channel their energy into weapons, gear, and mythical ki beasts. They are brought together by Master Kaku to protect people from the Gorma tribe and their generals Shaddam, Gara, and Zydos. And wow, do they look like they came out of the midnight screening of Rocky Horror Picture Show on Leather Night. Which is understandable why they weren't used as the villains in Power Rangers, as I'm sure parents would have complained about them. But in Power Rangers, the story continues where we left off, with the Rangers being the best role models possible and going out on an ATV race for charity. Rita watches, ready to hatch a new plan, when a new villain comes into the picture. This is Lord Zed, the Emperor of Evil, who has come to take over Rita's work.
I am Lord Zed, Emperor of all I see. You have failed to complete the mission assigned to you. I will now resume command. Prepare the fans for my return!
And what a design. Exposed muscle, the chrome armor that looks like it's holding him together, his head with its sneering visor, grill, and exposed brain. Oh yeah, he's terrifying. Lord Zed was conceived of as a way to make a stronger foe for the Power Rangers. He was originally designed by the toy company Bandai, and the suit was made in part by Connor McCullough, who would go on to win the first face-off competition from Sci-Fi. Zed was so scary that parents complained in droves of letters that he had to be taken off air, which is funny since the alternative wasn't family-friendly either. But what's interesting about the story is that Power Rangers continues on while Dairanger is a completely new story. In Sentai, there is a new series every year under the same brand, which Power Rangers would eventually adapt. But as the first Power Rangers series, it made sense to keep the same suits for as long as possible. Familiarity with a character or design is important for a brand, but if it stays the same too long, it can create stagnation and be forgotten. And so Power Rangers kept the same cast and suits, but would change the Zords and villains to keep the story compelling. I actually posed a question to a friend of mine who loves both series, asking, why didn't they at least use the helmets of Dairanger since the show now had a Mastodon man piloting a lion? And again, it came down to brand recognition. He agreed that changing something too soon, like in the case of Lion Voltron to Vehicle Voltron, would wind up hurting the image and appeal of Power Rangers. Despite this, Season 2 of Power Rangers isn't nearly as compelling as Dairanger. Dairanger has an overarching story for every member, which creates a strong attachment to each of them. Ryuranger and his rival Jin, bent on getting stronger by any means necessary. Shishiranger and his relationship to Kujaku, a peacock lady on a vengeance. Tenma Ranger's feud with the three Gorma Stooges. Ho-Oh Ranger's mothering nature to the White Kiba Ranger. And Kirin Ranger's concern for who would become the turtle mech ally Daimugen. The Power Rangers don't have much going on for them by comparison. The first part continues a storyline from Season 1 where the Green Ranger slowly loses his powers.
Witness the greatness you once were, Tommy, because it's all over now.
When he does, the story becomes, we miss him, until he returns as the White Ranger, which is the only Dairanger suit used in Power Rangers. Now, with Tommy's return as the White Ranger, we should talk about Kiba Ranger, who is a 9-year-old boy named Ko. This would be the first instance of a child as a Sentai member, but not be the last. However, with that in mind, he's also a jerk.
何すんのよおっぱいちっちゃいな変な子何よへえもらったほら泥棒
When he first gets his powers, he abuses them, playing pranks, sexually harassing girls by flipping up their skirts, and grabbing their breasts. But this is also his point to grow as a character. By comparison of Tommy, it's a vast difference. Tommy is as good guy as possible, while Ko is a brat. It's no wonder they didn't show Tommy flipping up girls' skirts as the White Ranger. Another thing that bothered me as a kid is that his design was made to suit his Zord, and the others weren't. Tommy was always a favorite of fans, so his comeback was no surprise. But what was a surprise was who left. As soon as Tommy returned, it was the beginning of the end for Zach, Trini, and Jason. As the series became more popular, the actors Austin St. John, Walter Jones, and Tui Trang were trying to negotiate more money in their contract or else they would walk. This wound up being very difficult, as the show was non-union and very low budget. And so, the actors left as the characters were accepted to a peace conference in Switzerland. They were replaced by 3 ninja teens, Rocky, Adam, and Aisha. This is nothing new to Super Sentai, as previous Sentai members had been replaced, like Go Ranger's Key Danger, Battle Fever J's Battle Cossack and Miss America, and even the leader of Sun Vulcan, Vol Eagle.
Zordon, we can't go to the peace conference. Not now.
There has to be another way.
Trini, Zack, and Jason, in your hearts you will always carry the spirit of the Power Rangers, but your destinies lie elsewhere. You have been chosen to help the world in a different way now.
Actors needing to leave a project is not uncommon to any TV series, really, as everyone has their own life off the set to consider. Still, this is where the series falls hard for me. Season 2 had done some great things with each of its characters' personal storylines, but the transition to Dairanger footage made the choreography suffer in both Zord fights and hand-to-hand. And with the switch of 3 major cast members, it felt like such a rush that Rocky, Aisha, and Adam didn't have any character archetype like the previous cast did. Which is a big shame, as these are 3 good actors, but the show's writing never lets them prove that. Another interesting contrast that we'll see throughout the franchise, with special thanks to Maximal Dino Trap for commenting and getting me to think about this, in Sentai and Rangers is the secret identity. In Power Rangers, the secret identity comes naturally to the Rangers as a means of protecting their families, but this reason makes no sense when you consider that the heroes are being spied on in their everyday lives. So, who are they really protecting? Probably just themselves from the general public. But Sentai hardly ever has a secret identity. In Zyuranger, the ancient warriors were pretty much out there in the public eye, and even in Dairanger there was never any priority to keep their identity a secret. This would also create an ongoing subplot for Bulk and Skull, as they decide to find the identities of the Power Rangers in Season 2. Power Rangers would continue on with some very extended plots that relied less on the Dairanger footage, and would be very fun in concept, such as reverting the teens to children, having the Green and White Rangers fight each other, being trapped in a storybook, which is the only time one of the Gorma Triumvirate is in the show, and especially the return of Rita and her marriage to Zed. But culturally, Power Rangers was a big hit. People were comparing it as the next Ninja Turtles. It even blocked LA traffic for a few hours for a small appearance at an expo. This was probably the very peak of popularity for Power Rangers. A lot of good decisions were made to keep the series fresh but familiar, as it grew and struck while the iron was hot for making the movie, but in the long run, the series suffered from poor editing and world building because they spread themselves too thin, especially when creating their own original footage instead of relying on the Sentai towards the end of the series. Whereas Dairanger is so well thought out as an anniversary series, fleshing out its characters, performing great creative choreography, trying new things for the series, and a great part of the Super Sentai lore that you may have noticed I didn't talk too much about its story. That's because there is so much going on in it, I didn't want to spoil too much, and I highly recommend you buy a copy of the DVD from Shout Factory. Hashtag not an ad, but could be an ad. Please contact me, Shout Factory. But I will say this about the ending, which shouldn't be too spoilery. At the end, the Dairangers meet up again after 50 years when a Gorma attacks, and the grandkids go out to the rescue. But they recall one of their master's final words.
一つの力を二つに分け、お互いが争いながら永遠に生きていく。これすなわち人間の宿命なの。
While very somber and kinda distressing, this could be said about the Super Sentai series. So long as the series continues on, this Earth will know no peace. But it will always have heroes to protect them. And Power Rangers just kind of awkwardly ends on a time-traveling Pink Ranger to create the Wild West Rangers and an evil Billy clone episode. which are alright, but I feel like the season should have ended on the Rita and Zed wedding in order to create tension for the next season. Comparing these two is difficult. While Power Rangers was putting more of their team onto the movie, Dairangers was planned out to be one of the most well thought out Sentai in the series. It's almost unfair to compare them, but I think I'll always go back to Dairanger rather than Mighty Morphin Season 2.
Ninja power now!
Raise your ninja power now!
However, I can't say the same for Season 3, but that is for another video. Ciao, guys. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you like what we do here, you know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, and ring that little bell. And if you're so inclined, feel free to donate to our Patreon or our Ko-fi account. And the next episode is going to be a comparison of Macross and Robotech. But if you really want to hear my opinion a little bit sooner, I'm doing a podcast with my lovely Katrini over at Heart and Cell Podcast, where you can listen to our in-depth analysis on each individual episode of Macross. Hopefully that'll satiate you until the Robotech Macross episode. Until then, guys,